My name is Valara Jenkins Petteway. I live here in Starke. I graduated with the class of 1967, and I'm currently the president of the RJE Alumni Association.
Aretha Williams Kearns, rather, a graduate of RJE, class of 1956, living in Jacksonville, Florida now.
And I'm Ada Williams Smith, and I attended RJE. I didn't graduate from here. I graduated in Jacksonville, Florida from Stanton High School, and I live in Jacksonville, Florida.
I'm Amandalene Chandler. I went to RJE and I graduated class of 1956, and I still live in Starke.
My name is Gloria Jackson. I graduated class of 1963, and I currently live here in Starke, Florida, born and raised.
My name is Maurice White, and I graduated in 1949 from RJE. And I was born and raised here in Bradford County, Starke, and I still reside here.
I'm Yvonne Robinson, and I interned here in 1961, the spring, and I came back as a teacher, second grade teacher, from 1961, I think, to 65, 66. Then the sister made me go to Southside Elementary School, where I stayed there until June of 69. Then I moved to Washington, D.C., stayed and retired there. So after 40 years, I'm back in Jacksonville, Florida, where I reside now.
Okay, thank you all.
My name is Deborah Sims. I graduated from Bradford High School in 1972. I went to Jenkins Ellerson from first grade to the 8th grade. I'm the daughter of Elizabeth Walker. I live in Starke, Florida right now, and I'm also the president of NAACP.
We're gathered here on this weekend as we do biannually, the Labor Day weekend, in order to celebrate the Jenkins Ellerson High School. We get all of our classes together to come back. The school was meant so much to us, and after its closing in 1969, we needed to find a way that we could keep the spirit here alive at RJE. So we felt like forming this association would do that. It would not only give the students that graduated from here or attended RJE to come back at some point in time, but it will give the children in the community a sense of value, to know that there was a school here in our community. We had a football team, we had a basketball team, we had cheerleaders, we had teachers who cared about us.
And a band.
So our school wasn't, the history of our school did not get the chance to get lost. And so we're here to make sure that that history remains.
You sound very excited about it. Do you feel that there's a greatness associated with Robinson, Jenkins, Ellerson that needs to be preserved? Could you elaborate on that?
I don't only feel that there's a greatness, I know that there's a greatness connected to Robinson, Jenkins, Ellerson High School. It is because it's the pillar of our community. We're proud of this place that we call our alma mater. And we can proudly say through all of the years that the school has been here that it's never been vandalized, other than the fire that happened in the 70s, which nobody in our neighborhood did it, our community did it. But the children around here, they appreciate the school and they respect it. Okay. So we're proud of that.
Thank you. Now we have several students, we have a couple of teachers. I'd like to start with the teachers first and maybe ask them to give some comments. I want to begin with Ms. Robinson on the end over here. As an instructor at RJE, what are your memories of the school and the legacy that the school has?
Well, first of all, it was my first teaching experience. And coming from Florida A&M, I interned here under Mrs. Williams in 5th and 6th grade. And that summer, Mr. Tompkins, who was principal of the school, hired 5 of us. He hired a music teacher, the band teacher, the librarian, and the industrial arts, right, teacher. And of course, I took the 3rd grade teacher's place, Mrs. Paul, who is deceased. To me, the internship was great. I really learned a lot between A&M and coming here to a small town. It was such a great memory, and I'm being honest with you, it started me on my feet. I would not be who I am now in education if it had not been for my first roots here. I came back and I taught here until maybe 1965 and doing integration. Bradford County was one of the first to integrate, so because of the University of Florida. And they, I had to they moved me to Southside Elementary, where I stayed until 69. Now, I must say I moved here, I stayed with Mrs. Royal. It's a long story. Here you didn't have the hotels and all of that, so I had a room there, and she was like a mother, Valeria's grandmother. And she took in me and Mr. Lucas, who stayed in the back room. I had the front and she had the middle room. So when I came back to teach, I had my old room. And it was just a pleasure working with the families, her families, and not only that, all of the teachers who were mentors to me. As I said, the foundation that I had here, not only for the church, but the community and the school, taught me about life. I learned a lot living in a small town. Not only that, the camaraderie. Amanda was in the kitchen, and she was like family. I ended up teaching her daughter, Cherise, and it was just a community. And the main thing about it, we all socialized. It wasn't about the teachers here and the adults and the community here. We all did a lot of things together. We traveled together, we played cards together, we had our dances. When it was prom time, we decorated that prom. I was from the elementary, but we decorated that prom as if we were all going to attend, right? We stayed there. Her sister, Miss Jenkins, was also a mentor. She was a short little lady just like I am, but they mentored me. And a lot of things went on, drama, what have you, but it prepared you for the world. If you have never lived in a small town, I would say like this community, you've lost something. And I gained an awful lot by being here. And it helped me in my career in Washington, D.C., to move all the way up to supervising director of reading. And then I just left the job where I just left the No Child Left Behind, the Reading First. I coordinated that program until '09 for 5 years. And it helped me so much having had the experience here. I don't fear going places and traveling and meeting and talking to people, because I learned it here from this community. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Did we learn it? Yes. And they all helped me.
Yes, we had fun.
That's my biggest thing about it. Yes.
And that was something that went on in this community. My mother taught special education, and we had a lady, Miss Irene Johnson, that didn't live here, but she roomed with my mother. And she roomed here during the week and went home on the weekend. And that was part of my household. And they both taught at the little school special education. So we all felt like community, and they didn't mind opening their homes to someone that didn't have a house here, but was working here and working in the community.
Thank you, Ms. Sims. Ms. White, as a former instructor at Robinson Jenkins Ellerson, you've had the chance to listen for a few minutes with the introductory comments and what Ms. Robinson set up. And what are your thoughts about the legacy of RJE and your role as a teacher?
Well, for my education, let me go back from RJE. We had black schools in each municipality of Bradford County. Thurston, which is they call commonly Cross the Creek. Water Oak, which is Pleasant Grove. Lodi, and the Brooker area, which we call New River, and also Hampton. We had schools in all of those municipalities. Well, my daddy was the principal at RJE, but they saw fit. I might tell you why. A Caucasian told him why they moved him and sent him to Pleasant Grove. And I went then to Pleasant Grove and finished there in 8th grade and came back to RJE. I went in 2nd grade. And when we went to Pleasant Grove, they had a little shack called a school. It was there beside the church, which is the United Methodist Church now. The church is beautiful, but the church was a shack too. And the little building beside the church was a shack, which was a school. And it would hold about, I guess, 50 children if you pack them in. But later on, the men and my father got busy out there, and one of the patrons gave them, sold them some wood, some trees, and they dressed these trees free of charge in Lake Butler for them. And they brought that lumber over across the street, and they bought that land from Tyson, and they built a school. And that's the reason I understand they sent my daddy, because he's got a name of building things. So we said we let him go out there and he'll build them a school that was undercover. Plus another Caucasian told him they moved him because he wanted too much. And they built the school out at Water Oak. And they moved the shack when they tore it down. They didn't burn it up like they do now and tear it up and put it on the trash. They moved that building board by board, he and the boys, across the street, and they built what they call a shop. And they did woodwork there. We have some furniture in our house now that he and the boys built. And when they built the school, they built it with the pump in the kitchen. They drilled the pump so they would not have to go outdoors for water. And I can imagine that thing is there now still. That pump is there now because one of the Tysons bought the place. And then I came to RJE, and that's where I finished from in 1949.
Your discussion seems to hint your personal knowledge or belief that there's an undercurrent of race issues involved in the education system. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
On racism? Oh, surely. They gave us second-hand books, or third or fourth-hand books, if that matter. We didn't get new books. And a lot of books that my father, he did work aside from being principal. He was the first plumber, black plumber that was licensed and electrician, because he got his training over at Florida Memorial College. And he was the first black electrician and plumber that was licensed. And the books that, a lot of people that he worked for were Caucasians. And they would give him all kinds of books. And he would bring them home and look them over, and then he would bring them to the school for the children to learn. One he kept, and he made me read it. And I was young. He said, I want you to read this book by a certain age. It was Pilgrim's Progress. And I have that book now. It was Pilgrim's Progress. And he would bring home books that people give him, and we would read them, and I enjoyed reading. I developed a love for reading. And when they would go get their supplies, the supplies that they would get would be very much unlike the supplies that were given to the Caucasians, the white schools. All right, busing. We had children, the Fraziers. They lived miles from Starke, but those boys had to walk from where they were to school, but they were here on time every morning. And sometimes he said the white school buses would pass them, and they would be looking out the windows, jeering at them. Another personal experience, when I was going to Pleasant Grove, well, the children walked. We had Laurentine Johnson. They were Johnson, but she's a Cuffey now. They lived way back out in the woods of Water Oak or Pleasant Grove, and they had to walk to school. Sometimes when we would be on the porch of our school at Water Oak, we would see the children. Now, they didn't have a bus from Starke to Water Oak, but they had a beautiful truck, and it had sturdy sides to it. It wasn't like one that we had coming in from Lordy. Whenever it turned a corner, it go this way and all the children would lean over that way. It turn and go this way, all the children lean over and go that way. The sides were not sturdy, but these sides on this truck that were transporting these white children were sturdy. And they would yell slogans at us. Our parents didn't know about it, and we'd yell things back at them as they passed the school. And as far as they could go, they'd be yelling things, we'd be yelling back at them. And there are very many more experiences that I can tell about that. And of course, we had our segregated association, the FSTA, with our Negro Association, and when we integrated, we had to join with them, FEA, Florida Education Association, that's what they belong to.
FST is Florida State Teachers Association?
Florida State Teachers Association with the colored. And because at that time they were using the word colored, then they left that word and started using black. And from black they started using Afro-American. I hope we'll stay there. But anyway, we had separate organizations, and I have a program to show that it was well defined, and its objectives and its goals and so on. We had resource people coming in, and we would organize into groups, in math groups and science group and so on, to see how we could better present material to our students, high school on back down to the elementary school.
Could I interject something?
Yes, ma'am.
Right there?
Yes, ma'am.
When you spoke of racism, when I interned here, May of '61, they had me go to 2 RJE and 2 other schools. One, Miss Price was the principal of one-room school. Coming from Jacksonville, I'd never seen. The other one, I think Miss Anderson was in the principal, Maurice.
At
There
Lordy?
was 2, yeah, no, they were all out here somewhere. There were 2 one-room schools. One
Hampton, one was in
Hampton,
Hampton.
and the other one was Miss Price was
Across the
in
creek,
one, and it
yes.
was another one-room school. I had no idea that we still had one-room schools.
It might have
in Florida.
been Pleasant Grove,
Plus,
because
it
that
was
was,
it was
But
2,
Hampton had one.
there was another principal, a black principal there.
uh-huh.
And
That
I
was
was
Miss
Price
Stella
because they
But
brought them
Hampton had
up
one too.
Yeah, I
here.
know it.
They took,
Leon
made Miss
Williams
Anderson
was
go to the school there, and I know Miss Price came and worked. She's the one taught us a lot about throwing good banquets and food. But when I went in these
She was across
schools,
the creek.
being an
Miss Price was
intern,
across the creek.
I never smelled anything so terrible. There were outhouses. There were outhouses, and they had one pot-belly stove to heat all the children. The children were from first grade through whatever they did. Buses were going by, bringing other children in, and they eventually, after I was here maybe 2 years, they eventually closed those schools, and they brought them in to teach with us. But when you're talking about separate but equal, that is what it was. And when I taught 5th and 6th grade, there were books that had been used. But I do want to say on a good note for that, this county was one of the first to integrate. And when Mrs. Payne came through to see the teachers, that's how I ended up going over to Southside, because they wanted to integrate. I felt very good as a teacher. I never felt so professional. You know why? Because in the teacher's lounge, they had food on the table. I had paper, pencils. I never wanted for anything. Having taught all these years here, 5 years here, but when I went there, I felt like a professional because I had everything I need. I didn't have to, I wasn't signing in, but they kept up with the, I did bus duty, but nobody drew lines across my name. They made sure I had everything. And another thing, when you think of the racism that we had, I would go to Howard for graduate school, and my principal would say, oh, she's going there, she's going to bring us back all the nice material. She's going to the best Negro school in the country. The word, he never used Negro. And I worked under those conditions, which they treated me professionally. But even after having an intern from the University of Florida who was from a white kid and all of that, and being exposed to that part of it, they still use that word Negro until the day I left here in 1969. But on the other side of them, deciding they want to do this, they did it before Jacksonville and many other we integrated, because you went over to Southside.
No, I went to Starke.
Starke Elementary. And
That's where they sent me.
They sent them. they were about moving first, but now we didn't do old books at Southside. But what my experiences here were, we did not have the same kinds of things until maybe after the 70s. Yes.
Now, the students
Now,
will have been very
let
patient.
me go back a minute to, she was talking about the outhouses. In Pleasant Grove, we had outhouses. In all of the schools, there were outhouses. But when they built this new school across the street, my dad was a good carpenter. He built our house, which is a two-story house. He built his sister's house, which she was a Paul, and then he married a second Miss Paul. He built that. That was a two-story house. And many houses in the white section he built, and built the chimneys and all. He built our fireplaces. Of course, that was before I was born. They were there when I came. And many that I know that he pointed out that he built. But anyhow, he built brand new outhouses. And they were, if you call it then, because no doubt, everybody used outhouses, the white and the colored, at a certain time. But they didn't have an odor, because what he would do, he would keep lime. And that was so very good. And in the girls' bathroom, there were seats for about 3. And we kept plenty of toilet tissue, and we kept the place scrubbed out and everything. And of course, we had to pump the water for everything that we did. Now, so much for that. And let's go back to segregation. I forgot. I should have been taking notes while she was talking. But that was for that school. But at RJE, in the old two-story building where I graduated from, the part that we call the recreation center now, that they tacked that onto it behind because they needed room so badly before they built the new school. And then they hauled some barracks from Camp Blanding in. And it was just horrible. And we were crowded in that. But the new building was nice. And one day that we were cooking hamburger to sell for our contests on the pot-belly stove, and it was a wood burner. It was winter, and we were frying them on the stove. And the superintendent came in, and he was telling us how blessed we are. You are very blessed. See, you have a stove to cook on. And we all looked at each other. We were in high school, but we had better said that when he said, you are so blessed, and got to that part, so you have a stove to cook on. That was good enough for us. And many other things that I didn't jot anything down. As I said, I didn't know exactly what this was going to be about, and so on and so on and so on. But the things that
the superintendent's name?
I'm not sure if it was Mr. Griffin, what was the man's name before Casey got in there? Do you all remember?
You ever had one named Mr. Morgan?
It was a Morgan.
Morgan, that's who it was, Morgan. And I noticed in meetings, when we were here at RJE before we integrated, we would be having teachers meeting, and this particular thing I noticed, the superintendent was smoking, and he just threw his cigarette down on the floor and ground it out with his foot. And I said, my goodness of life, look at that. And we all teachers looked at each other. And so far as transportation, it was some time before blacks were transported. Now, before that time, down the road where your house is now and where Julia B. and those houses were strawberry patches. And the white children and the black children would be down there picking strawberries. The school bus would come. We haven't always had 9 months of school. I remember when we had 7 months, and then on to 8 and on up to 9. But there are some members of my family know when they didn't have but 4 months. Reverend Franklin, he used to come to our house, and he pointed to our dining room. He said, "See that dining room?" I said, "Yes." So your mom and dad has taught many girls and boys in there so that they could make a grade that year, because they were not giving African Americans but 4 months of school. And they taught them so that they could make a grade that year. But anyhow, back to the strawberry patch. They would all be picking strawberries. When the bus would come by, it would come by to pick up the whites. They would get on and go and leave the blacks to work. Now, those are just a few of the things. Not to say that in the school board office, which was the courthouse, when you went there, teachers and all, you had black water and white water. And you dashed not drink from the white fountain. And when I was at the A&M, some of the girls went downtown, and they had black and white. And this black girl went over to the white water and drank some. And they said, "Don't you know better than that?" She said, "I just wanted to see how the white water tasted." But anyway, we're not talking about Florida A&M, but there are a lot of things that I could talk about. The city bus boycott that the Florida A&M students started, and they would not let the blacks sit by white. If one white was on that seat and you had nowhere to sit, you couldn't sit by them. But I won't go into that since we're just talking about Bradford County. And
Yeah, we were part of that bus.
I got a lot of experiences there. As a matter of fact, the Charlie John Center, that's why I was hoping that this would be a community thing and not just the school. The Charlie E. John Conference Center is named after him in exchange for him giving them some $100,000 of money in order to name the building Charlie John, because he did some things. He did some good things. He paved all of the, Dan McCarthy was the governor when I was up there. Dan McCarthy was very young, and he died shortly after he got in office. And he was appointed governor, our governor Charlie Johns here. And he stayed behind us. He kept taps on the blacks and the organizations and so on, and called us communists and different things like that. But anyway, there was some later, I talked to some white young men that I knew when I was working at the white school. They didn't think that they should name that school Charlie John's Conference. I mean the conference center there, because at the University of Florida, you might remember this, I don't know if you were there or not, they were going to name some building or give some kind of honor to Charlie Johns, who was once the governor. And they said, "Oh, no, you won't." They got together because he was deadly against the gays, and as many as he could, he found reason to get them put out of the University of Florida, and they remembered that. And there were other things that he did, and they said, "We will never, as long as this is the University of Florida, have somebody like him to receive the honor that you have set up for him to receive." Now, Smathers, he got by with it. Smathers was not good to the blacks either, but they named the library Smathers Library just the same. But back to racism in the school. I can talk and tell a lot of things. During the time that Mr. Tompkins was the principal here, they had the Telegraph's first centennial, and they asked all of the men to grow beards. They all grew beards. Mr. Tompkins, including some of the other male teachers, Mr. Shell and my daddy, he had retired then, because at that time there was a law. When you get 70, you would have to retire out of the school system of the state of Florida. But later on, that rule was rescinded. And you can teach on now until you get 170, as long as you are doing a good job, because I taught over in Gainesville and I was way past 70. Way past 70.
Ms. White, I definitely want to come back to what you're talking about. We only have 30 minutes more on this particular read.
Okay,
so
I'm
we're trying to
sorry.
get this a
I
little
beg your
student-
pardon.
You remember, I mentioned before, there was so much, I mean.
I beg
this
your
is
pardon.
We are so honored that this is such a rich panel of institutional knowledge, not only in the school, but on the community. But, I just feel I have to get the students in just.
Let me finish this.
Okay.
They had all the white with beards on, but in the Telegraph when it came out, they didn't have one single black. Not any of them did they have anything. All of the blacks that they had in there was like Harmon Murray, the killed policeman and all like that. They featured him on some full pages. So much for that now.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Chandler, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Kearns, you have been very patient. I would like to get you to give some perspective as students. We've had just a rich background, a foundation set up of a wonderful community, people being inclusive, going above and beyond to make sure that you had the resources that you needed, even in a time where racism was fighting some of that equality. What are your perceptions as students from what you've heard, and how does that reflect upon your experience here at the reunion for RJE?
Well, I attended RJE from kindergarten through 12th grade. And really, I would say my formative years, my values or whatever, was here at this school. The teachers, you know, it was like a family. There was concern for the students. You know, if you didn't produce like you should, your parents were told, and that teacher got with your parents and, you know, worked out whatever needed to be worked out. But when integration came, anyway, I had already graduated, but there was, you know, that sense of, I'm gonna say camaraderie. It just wasn't across the track. Although there were more opportunities for our kids across the track, they didn't get that familial, I'm gonna call it, love and whatever that they would have received here, that I received here, that prepared me for life. Because of my education here at this school, you know, I was able to go on and, you know, I graduated. Then I went to, I had to go all the way to Daytona, and there was a vocational center right across the track. But because of integration, I had to go to Daytona to get my certificate in cosmetology. And then I came back and I was able to get a job at the school board and retire from there. But there's nothing like our community schools. Nothing really takes the place of our community schools. And I feel like any child that missed that, they really missed a lot.
Ms. Chandler?
Yes, I went to RJE and I graduated. And even in the school, I got to know the teachers very well. And if a child was like slow in their class, the teacher would take time with them and kind of bring them aside and try to help them to catch up with the other class. But see, when they go across the track, if you don't know, that's it, you gone. But they had the chance to come to you and tell you this is what needs to be done, you know, and even talk with your parents and tell them to give you a little help if they could help you. And I learned the teachers, and I fell in love with the teachers because they were real nice teachers and they took time to do what they were supposed to do with you. And I enjoyed RJE very much. And when I graduated, I didn't go to college, but Mr. Tompkins was our principal, and he gave me a job in the cafeteria, and I retired from working in the cafeteria food service.
Now, you both talked about going across the track. There's a very interesting euphemism. I wonder, could you?
Well, see, I didn't go to school. We graduated over here, but I'm just saying, like the teacher was telling me that, like someone went over there and they said, well, we can't just take time with you person, you know, but when it was at the school here, they could do that, you know, take a little more extra time with a child that's kind of slow, because everybody's not the same in the classroom, you know that.
Right, right.
So
I
it's
just want to
time.
hear your
Yes.
words. Now, when you
Yes.
say across the track, you're speaking of going to.
The majority.
Majority, yes,
The majority
integrated.
of the community.
Yes,
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 yes.
that's,
I didn't want to infer.
Oh, and also, this was my 6th grade teacher. This is my 6th grade teacher, very good teacher.
yeah, they always good teachers.
She
at
whipped
RJE.
me the very first day I was in her. You remember that? You remember that?
Starke made my wedding.
The first day?
Live quiet, sweet girl.
Well, yeah, we could do corporal punishment, but the one thing about it, we went to their houses.
Yes.
It
that's what
didn't
I'm
matter
saying.
where they were, we
Yeah,
went to
right,
their
that's what I'm
houses
saying.
and we talked to those parents.
Right.
And all the
That's
time
right.
we taught, we never had a parent, we had men. So that was one plus thing about it, yeah.
Yes.
You got me twice.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. And-
yes, it was still on, yes.
Ms. Smith?
I went to RJE, started in 1st grade, and Miss Frances Jenkins was my 1st grade teacher, which was Maurice's sister. And I remember my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Chandler. I think it was Altamise
That's
Chandler.
what it was.
And then I had Mrs. Paul. And then I believe my sixth grade teacher was Mrs. Nathan, and she lived in Jacksonville. But she roomed over here, I think with Miss Dale. I believe they had a house for like teachers. And like she forestated, they were like family. They would, get together with you, and you would, like one-on-one. And then my aunt, Miss Cummins, Lucy Cummins, she was very strict also. So when you got back home, you had to put your head in a book back at home, or you get something on your backside. But I also was on the basketball team here at RJE. And this was where I started and got my beginning. And when I was in 10th grade, I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and started at New Stanton Senior High School.
And what were your experiences there?
Crowded school, but I had some wonderful teachers there also. Mrs. Harris was one of them, and Mrs. Roby and Mrs. Wyatt, which I just saw her not too long ago. She's well up in her 80s, but I'm 73, so I won't talk about age that much.
It's toilet.
But at New Stanton, it was a crowded school, and you had to kind of compete there with the other students that was there. So you had to really, really buckle down to compete there. I didn't play basketball anymore after I left here, and I didn't do sports after that. But I went on to not go to college right after I graduated. I started college later, and I started at EWC, and I matriculated on to Florida A&M University in the School of Nursing.
So Edward Waters College in Jacksonville first.
And then on to
Vanderbilt.
Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. And after graduation, I worked in several hospitals in Jacksonville. And then I got with a very good, nice family and did private duty nursing for 20 years and retired in 2003.
Ms. Kearns?
Okay, I received my educational foundation from RJE. My memories of that was the fact that the teachers were very respectful of the students, and the students were very respectful of the teachers, unlike now. They loved you. If you needed something, they got it for you. If you could not afford anything, they would get it for you. Aside from that, I gained a lot of knowledge. I gained enough knowledge to go on to Edward Waters for a year, and then to Florida A&M, and I received a degree in chemistry. Went back to Jacksonville and taught for 43 and a half years and retired in 2009.
Were you in the same school the entire 43 years, Jacksonville?
No, I started out, remember, at all-black school, stayed there for like about 4 years, and then went on to the integration movement and stayed there for 38 and a half years, teaching basically the same thing, which was not chemistry, but anatomy and physiology. So it still was science.
So after integration, for those 38 years, were you at the same school?
Yes,
And what school was that?
Andrew Jackson Senior High School.
Andrew Jackson. Ms. Sims, you went to school in the post-integration era, so you went across the track. Could you talk about that experience in those early years and contrast it with what the teachers and the students that went to RJE proper had, your experience?
As I said, I was here from 1st to 8th grade. Then I went across the track from 9th to 12th. Yes, it was a difference. As a matter of fact, I really didn't want to go until there was nowhere else to go but there, because we had culture here. I grew up, I was younger, and I had these ladies to look up to. They were queens, and we had somebody like us that were queens, and we had a band major that looked regal in the purple and gold. We had majorettes that when they marched, they marched. You know, they put their all into it. They enjoyed what they were doing. We as younger children saw that. And then when we went across the track, we didn't have a view or a glimpse of people like us. And you could get lost. You could get lost over there. Because I wasn't as outgoing as I am today. But some of that I learned right here, from this lady right here. She said, yes, you're gonna get up in front of the class and you're gonna recite the Gettysburg Address. I said, but I'll tell it to you, but I don't wanna tell it in front of the class. She said, you're gonna tell it in front of the class. Across the track, you can get lost if you just sit back and don't say much. Nobody's gonna encourage you to say much. You can get lost in the mix of things. So, in that sense, a lot of our children now will never be what they could be because they don't have the encouragement that I had when I was younger. But from that, I learned to be outgoing even without the help. So, but I enjoyed my high school years because eventually I went in the drill team because I remember the days when they were marching in purple and gold.
May I help her out?
Yes, please.
I know what, because I was involved, because I was a member of the NAACP, and I was the secretary. And I was scared to death because they were calling me from the high school over at the elementary school. At that time, we didn't have phones where you could go and sort of talk in privacy. But she is one of the ones that had to march to the courthouse because they couldn't be on anything. They couldn't be on the student council. They couldn't be on anything. They were just over there.
Sports.
So they decided that they would do something about it. So they told us, the young lady, I'm sorry, she's in a nursing home, Raynell English. Their parents would not listen to them over in Lincoln City. They would come to Raynell with their problems. She would bring them to us at our NAACP meetings. We had extra sessions to listen to these problems. I was trying to keep my position here, but I had to let it go. I had to let everybody know what I was doing. And so they said, we're gonna march. So what we did, we wrote excuses for them and said, get your parents to sign them and bring them back to us and we'll get them to the high school and let them know that your parents have their permission for you to march to the courthouse. The courthouse was not where it is now. It was in the Charlie John, it was on 301 at the corner of 301
Andrew Center.
and 100. That was the courthouse then.
Andrew Center.
So these with her and Mrs. Carolyn Spooner, who was a very bright lady, and she is now one of our city commissioners. She was the leader. And Mr. Clark, who was the black assistant principal, he was the whooping boy, because that's all they would let the black principals do. When the children come in late, that was their job, to do whatever, give them whatever punishment they were supposed to have, and one of them was paddling. But anyhow, he told her she couldn't go. So she went somewhere and called me over at Starke Elementary, and they called me, Miss White, you have a phone call. So I rushed around there when they sent someone to my room. And it was Carol. She said, Miss White, they won't let me go. I said, I looked like this around and see who was. I said, go, we'll stand behind you. So I put the phone down quickly and went back to the room. I said, Lord, what to do? So at my physical education period, I asked to go home and we could do things like that. And I came home and I told the people out here what was happening. I said, if they bother, let's stand ready to jump on them. But they didn't bother her. She went and they did not bother her. You was with her.
Yes, ma'am.
And they had carried a crew of blacks with them. We haven't had a set like that since.
Did you
And
find,
she was one of the ones.
Yes, ma'am.
did you find, Ms. Sims, that many acts of personal courage were required during that period after you went from the comfort of a community and the teachers caring, everybody knowing each other and family, when you went across the track, was it a constant, a question of, having individual courage? to do
Yes, it
things?
was. Yes, it was. We had, there were a lot of things that we had to fight and push for because we were outnumbered. And as long as we were outnumbered, we weren't able to do anything in a diplomatic way. We had to sneak around and find alternatives to do things.
With sports was the one area.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
Larry
Sports.
Brown, who
Yes.
played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we were still segregated, but he was one of the first to go over there. I was still here. And he played and they showered him. Many of them, he wasn't the only one in sports who excelled at Bradford High. But they did that. In the sports area, they didn't have a problem.
But on the other hand, his mother was a worker in the cafeteria over there. And a white boy came by and she was giving him his food on the plate, and he took the plate of food and threw it in her face, and folks, she threw at him, and they fired her. But anyway, I don't know what they did to the boy, but they told her, she talked to me about it, that we don't need anybody who can't hold their temper. Well, what do they about a student throwing plates of food in a worker's face? But she left there. She didn't grumble about not, she didn't try to keep a job, but I didn't know it till after, because had we known it in NAACP, we probably, because we had a strong NAACP. Sometimes with Miss Eddie Mae Stewart, I'd go from Starke to Georgia and be back here on my job the next day when there were problems up there. So we didn't know that that was happening to her until it was all over when she told me about it, weeks and weeks later.
Ms. Petteway, as a student at Robinson, Jenkins Ellerson, and as the president of the association, you were integral in putting this group together. I wonder if you could comment a little bit about your experience as a student and try to sum up for us in these last few minutes the importance of this panel and what it means in the context of this year's reunion.
Well, as you see on this panel, we have many people that with different backgrounds. They went on to do great things in their lives. Their beginning was here at RJE. Even we had some that migrated in, such as Ms. Robinson, that migrated in to start. But you see, she's back for the reunion. So that's actually saying a lot to us. It's the love that we all experience, the love that we all have been talking about all day. That's love in action. That's to show us how much she loves and cares. These ladies here that's coming in from Jacksonville, the reunion starts tonight, they're here today. They're probably the first ones there, Ms. Robinson, from out of town to be here because they want to be here. And for them to be invited by Mrs. Chandler we're going over here, we're going to this forum, we're going to talk about RJE, because we love the school, and for Mrs. White and Glory to get together to come in so we can communicate, and then also for Deborah to come. We all just love this school so much, and being a student here just gave me the inspiration to just want to fight on, to just keep the legacy going, to keep the memory going, because we are determined that our great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren will know that there was a Robinson Jenkins Ellerson High School which existed, that had all of the activities that we previously discussed, and that we had people who looked like them that were queens. We had people who looked like them that played instruments, that carried the basketball, the football, that just learned here, that became policemen, nurses, educators, that even became mentors to their grandchildren. And so that each and every one of these people here represents something that was very much needed in our community. We needed beauticians. We needed someone to help feed these children. We needed someone to nurse their parents when their parents got older, either when the children got sick. We had people here who were able to educate these children to go on. We even had a young lady here that was able to, when our kids were in trouble, that could see them when they were confined behind prison walls, that was able to reach out to them and be kind to them, to let them know that I know you, I know your mama, I know your grandmother, I'm here for you, as well as they could. So we have a broad spectrum of people that are here today who are representing this community. Everybody in this community couldn't be here, but we all are here to represent Robinson Jenkins Ellerson High School, and I'm just so thrilled that I was able to be a student here at RJE. Me, myself, I had the opportunity to go to Bradford High when I was in 9th grade, the summer of 9th grade. I went over there to take Americanism versus Communism. And that was my first experience, being in a setting with children that did not look like me. And it was at that point that I suddenly realized that these people are just like everybody else. They play, they laugh, they don't get their lesson, you know, and they clown around in class and sometimes give the teacher a hard time. So they're no better than me. You know, they're no better than the students that they left, that I left behind. We are all human. And so, you know, that conceived notion in my mind went away to know that they're just like me. I always knew that they weren't better, but I got that experience to know that we were all on the same page. So why don't we have the same books? Why do we have old books? Why do they have, you know, the new books? You know, they're no different from us. You know, they get up from their desk, they sit down to their desk. You know, they play around, they horse around. I was in summer school because I want the extra credit. They were in summer school because they didn't get their lesson. So, you know, so we were there, you know, we just had that experience, and we just, again, so thrilled to know that RJE is still standing. RJE will forever stand, just like our alma mater goes. Your name shall ever be. And wherever we go, we'll take the memory of you, dear RJE. We will always.
You want me to sing this?
We had a good basketball team because we played on the basketball team together. We had a great basketball team. Girls basketball. Well, we had a good basketball team, boys too, because I married the basketball player.
And it's
Don't
just a
forget the
shame.
teachers used to play the students.
Yes, we did.
And it's just a shame that we had so much talent here, but during that time,
I remember you running to make me
we didn't
run
have the
behind
scouts that came about to scout these ladies out, or to scout the basketball players out, because some of them could have gone on to the NBA, could have gone on to the NFL, but you know, segregation, integration had its place, but we did have a couple of people that were able to leave RJE to go across tracks, and that were noticed by the scouts, and was able to go on, you know, to the NFL. So we still praise God for that, but we love RJE.
I thought I heard.
D-O-R-J-E.
What's that?
D-O-R-J-E.
Let me say, do you all know the song?
Sing it for us.
Dear old RJ High School, you're the world to me. Dear old RJ High School, you shall always be. For you bring me sunshine everywhere I roam. I am always thinking of you when you shove me round the creek. I am always thinking of you when I lay me down to sleep. Dear old RJ High School, you're the world to me.
And you will notice that some of us did not sing that rendition of it because the song was changed. So actually, we are honored to have two school songs. So this was the first one
That's
came
in here, who it was
about.
by, Miss Flossie
Right,
McClatchy.
right. And so we have two school songs.
I got that book.
Well, certainly the legacy continues. We were honored
It's
to walk
gonna
through
last for ever,
this-
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, we're here to stay, right?
Right, that's right.
Well, there are kids on campus today. We
There are
walk
kids
through,
on
getting
campus.
in, so.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Whenever you see babies, you know that things are growing, that there is life.
It's 100 and something.
115.
Maybe amongst yourselves, you can decide, we have maybe 2 more minutes on the reel, somebody to give some final comments. So I'll just let you, among yourselves, decide who's gonna, have those thoughts.
Well, I like to say that RJ had a good basketball, guys basketball player, and my husband, who I married, he was a good basketball player. And I married him just for 55 years before he passed. He was a good ball player. Julius Chandler, they call him Moot. Julius Chandler, but they call him Moot.
Very good.
And her husband was just as good.
Oh,
or
no, he was
better.
not.
Better than her husband.
No, he wasn't.
We also had a wonderful band, and we had one of William P. Foster's men, Mr. Monroe. That was the bandmaster, and I'm telling you, they could play, and I think that year they closed the school. And we didn't have anything left. So when I went to Starke Elementary, we had a film, 33 millimeter film called Bradford County, Four Seasons County, and opening up that film was Bradford, the Black Schools Band, with Mr. Clarence Sue as the high stepping major. And now he told me he wasn't the first major, he was the second one. But anyhow, I said, Clarence, you got to get that thing back, because they stopped us from using the 33 millimeter, 35 millimeters, and they got videos for it. So he found that thing from somewhere, and he made videos for us. And he told, I carried it to Mr. Whatever the white principal's name, and told me I wanted to see the bandmaster, because I wanted him to know, have his children to know that we had a band too. He said, well, Miss White, I'll do better than that. What I'll do, I'm going to give it to the Matthews Museum, and I don't know if it's down there. I never went to see if he put it down there, but anyhow, he said, give it to the librarian, and she will make copies for those who come in with the video, and we won't charge them anything. I think she's the only one that went and got one.
I have a copy of it.
You got a copy? Yeah, he gave you a copy.
Right.
But I think I and you and I'm disappointed that I'm saying that our constituencies did not put forth effort.
Ms. Robinson, I think you had a comment to it. This will be the last.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, not only did we teach children, the children taught us. And one experience when I came here, because of the books didn't have our children pictures in them, they were old books. I decided to do a unit, because our children, some of them didn't come to school until 11 because they picked strawberries. So you had to work with them on their level. So therefore, I was going to do a unit on strawberries. We were going to write, learn to read. So I'm getting up, I did not do my homework. And I'm telling them, we've got to get some seeds so that we can plant strawberry. We've got to do all of this so we can read right. And the children were rolling all over the floor. Why are they laughing? Miss Robinson, we don't have seeds. We do plants. We have to get the plants. They taught me, literally, you must prepare. And those plants, we learned how to do it, and everything they harvest, they brought it to us from their homes. They taught us how to make butter, milk, things like that. Our children, our parents helped us with. And that was a long-lasting thing that I always did after then as an educator. Always share from what the children bring in parents to use as a teaching tool.
From the Renaissance Center here in Starke, I want to thank all of you, teachers, students, across the track, President, for your participation in educating us and letting us share this 2011 biennial reunion with you. Thank you for your honor us. Thank you so much.
You're quite.
Thank you.
When will your next session be?
Ma'am?
When will your next session be? That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.